Okay, everybody. It's really interesting. I found in meditation when I put up my fingers like this in the peace sign, the bliss state in meditation goes higher. They're literally like antennas, our fingers, our hands. And when I'm in the bliss state, I'm now finding that mudras with the hands are really powerful. The state, once your halo awakens and the illumination begins in the crown chakra, and you find there's far more pleasure. There really is. There's far more pleasure from the circle of the heart higher into the halosphere. There's more pleasure in the bliss than there is in all of the rest of the nervous system. But I don't know why this is. When I do the peace sign, I'm trying to bring back the peace sign. Manifest, it's like I've got rabbit ears up. I mean, remember in the old days you would in school we'd put the fingers behind somebody's head and it was like a joke, but I can actually I really feel it. I know John Lennon and the Beatles brought this in. So anyway, exciting news today, everybody. I mean, it's getting so exciting that even I can't believe it because we have manifestation proof from a telescope in northern Arizona, one of the Lowell telescopes, Lowell Observatory telescopes. In fact, this is the newest one in Happy Jack, Arizona. Stunning, stunning news. Um, but I am gonna start actually today going back to my experience on the 19th, 20th of October when um I had the dream vision that I was at the Last Supper. And because there's a really deep metaphysical message there. And in this dream, which happens again, Three Eye Atlas is pointing the finger. It's like the pointer. If it doesn't do anything else other than point, I'll still be astoundingly impressed. As I've demonstrated, it's crossed each orbit of each planet in the harmony of the order on all of these major religious holidays for most of the world's religions. And I find that remarkable enough, but it's doing way more than that. And so this dream, remember, I think it was Second Corinthians 3:13. Was it Second Corinthians 3:13? I gotta make sure. Where God says, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh in the last days, and your young men will have visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And so that um, is what's happening. So when I have this dream, everyone's present, Jesus and the apostles. It's just like Da Vinci's painting, but it's real. And there's this incredible presence. And Mary Magdalene, who, of course, conservatives thinks the person, leaning next to Christ in the Last Supper painting is the Apostle John, but clearly there's no beard. Clearly it's a woman. And she's laughing and she hands me the bread, and which is the sacrament, which is the body, the lineage body of Christ that he offers by partaking of his body, that we get enlightenment. And so this really white, creamy, fluffy bread is served to me by Mary Magdalene. And as soon as I take one bite, I'm in the highest illuminated state of consciousness. My halo lights up bright like the sun. And I get in this argument with Jesus. I said, how could it be this easy? How could it be this easy that we only need to do this instead of meditating all day? Because I've been meditating actually for 50 years. I started when I was 14 and I'm 64. So by the time I was 17, my practice was every single day. So I've meditated in sitting meditation as many as 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day. I've done Buddhist retreats where you're meditating with your legs crossed 12 hours a day. So I don't take meditation lightly. It's the hugest part of my life. But what I found now is the bliss consciousness every morning comes easier and easier. And you don't have to sit in these long, long hours of meditation to attain more bliss consciousness and love and peace than you can possibly even bear. And that is the state of illumination. So why was it in the dream that I only had to partake of this bread, which really is the body of Christ? And this morning when I came out of meditation, I was really trying to solve the riddle of Jesus taking the loaf of bread and multiplying it into 5,000 loaves and feeding the 5,000. So he fed 5,000. And I was really trying to find mathematically what the secret to that was, and I'm really close, and I'll tell you what it is. But it's what amazes me is that what's actually happening is a divine incarnation, a supremely divine incarnation. And of all the gurus I've met from India, and meeting the Dalai Lama in India, and all the teachers I've studied with, which are quite numerous, and then meeting Christ in person, I can safely say that he is the the invisible Spirit of God manifest into the visible, the highest enlightenment that is possible. But then to put that genetically into a body and to create a lineage, which is far deeper than we realize, because this new book I'm reading right now by James Tabor on the Mother Mary really gives us as an educated scholar, university scholar, James Tabor takes us on the journey of what the Mother Mary really went through. When she was a child and just born, the Romans were crucifying thousands and thousands of Jews. And her family was so terrified for their daughter's survival, Mary. She was literally brought to the temple and raised by temple priests at the age of 3. And that wasn't just because she was holding the Davidic bloodline. The bloodline, this is so key to what I'm talking about in the bread, because that bloodline of superior genetics made all of her children, which are well documented. It's in Mark. The Gospel of Mark actually is the earliest printed written record of a gospel. It doesn't mean, to me, gospel begins the moment we have oral transmission of teaching, because 97% of the Roman Empire couldn't read, and 97% of the Palestine could not read and write. So the story begins the moment oral transmission begins. But even so, Mark's physical gospel is the earliest gospel. And you can see in Mark 6 that Jesus had brothers and sisters, and that James and Simon were his physical brothers. We don't know his sisters' names, but that family's genetic bloodline continued. And that is why the Romans were, say, first you have Alexander the Great comes in when the kingdom of Egypt extends all the way up through the Palestine, all the way into Lower Syria. And Lower Syria and Syria is where the Aramaic language of Jesus's entire family comes from. And this Davidic bloodline is so pure that if we were to be able to partake of it, for that bloodline, enlightenment, the awakening of the halo, is made easy instead of difficult, like, meditating. And so this was the argument I was having with Jesus in the dream, October 19th, when 3i Atlas crossed 591, is why is it so easy, and why is it that when people partake of sacraments, they don't get this illumination in the halo and filled with bliss? I mean, yes, a highly devout person might start to experience that. I've read the life of Saint Teresa of Avila cover to cover, and she did experience full illumination through all 7 levels and mastered all 7 levels. It's extremely rare. So I said to Jesus, if the priests are corrupt, how can the sacraments be pure? So this is where it gets really interesting, because to understand that if you get a genetic upgrade, then the frequency of your body is raised to such a place that the leap to higher consciousness is made easy. And this I found over the years by doing frequency tuning, adding frequency tuning harmonics to the meditation practice, that job is made so much easier. But what Jesus showed me in the dream is this is even easier. So how do I get this bread, the real bread? And I realized that when Christ manifested the five and the loaves and fishes and fed the 5,000, that was the bread, the real bread from heaven. And those 5,000 persons, if some of them had children who had children and had children, that superior genetics would have circulated around the planet over the last 2,000 years, albeit there have been a lot of wars and there have been massive viruses. Because we know in the scriptures that James, the brother of Jesus, actually headed the first church in Jerusalem, and he preached for about 30 years. So that's very successful before he was crucified by the Romans. And then his brother Simon takes over, which is Jesus' brother, and then he gets crucified. Important part is understanding that all of this is Egypt. It's all Egypt. Bethlehem is at the very border of the Egyptian empire, merging into what we would call what became the Arabic world. But when Alexander the Great comes in 3rd, 4th century BC, the Palestine becomes Hellenized. It becomes Greek, greatly influenced by the Greeks, which is why all of the Gospels in the New Testament, including Paul's letters, were written in Greek. And so that's why we have to understand Greek. But then the Romans come in before the time of Christ, and they conquer what the Greeks had conquered. And so it becomes temporarily a Roman territory. And the Romans are the ones crucifying these bloodlines coming out of which eventually would become the race of the Hebrew and the Jewish people. And many and the 12 tribes would become Arabic nations, would even migrate around the planet and circumnavigate the globe, and little communities would sprout up carrying that bloodline. And that actually could be traced if we made an effort to trace it, is what I'm saying. So the persons who partook of the real mana that was manifest have this advantage in that their genetics are vibrating at a higher frequency, so therefore enlightenment is easier. It's not given, but it's easier for that person to reach these states of consciousness that I'm talking about. So with that and our pointer 3i Atlas this week, a miraculous thing has happened that first of all, I just want to show um, for the record today that the solar flares, believe me, I've been watching the solar flares because, of course, we get solar flares all the time. But now, as we're going to approach, 3i Atlas is going to approach 591 again on November 11th, which is 11/11. So it crossed it once on the 19th, 20th, and then it went away from it a little bit, and then it paired with Venus, the 3rd and 4th, which was yesterday, which I'll graphically show in a minute, and then it's today coming out of the pair of Venus. So we're going back to the frequencies in the Google Drive, which is Earth to 591, which is angelic dominions. But we can see the sun, these enormous sunspots which have been exploding on the far side of the sun, and some of those explosions have reached 3i Atlas. And some people think there is a correlation there. There might be. 3i Atlas might be triggering the sun, and the sun might harmonically be sending 3i Atlas energy. There's a symbiosis there for sure. But these powerful sunspots, which we see here on the upper left of the sun, will be Earth facing here or about here, November 10, 11. And that is an interesting correlation for sure. These are really potentially super powerful. But these X flares that we're getting are not big enough to be of any kind of negative concern. Remember, we got a signal on the 19th and 20th, going back when 3i was paired with the orbit of hyperdimensional planet 591. The entire internet got a massive hit, and most of the most powerful financial apps, Amazon, hundreds and hundreds of apps all over the world were shut down on that date. It took about 24 hours to recover. Now we have a new thing emerging. And that is first, that Donald Trump ordered the nuclear testing of nuclear weapons at perihelion when 3i Atlas reached its closest position to the sun. And that, to me, is not a message to Russia and China. No, we don't need to detonate nuclear weapons above ground. John F. Kennedy signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty August 5th, 1963, because we recognize worldwide the damage that nuclear weapon detonations do to the ecology, the ecosystems, is so severe that we shouldn't be doing it anymore. And that's when nuclear testing went underground. The Russians stole the atomic bomb from Los Alamos using very good spies. They got right in there, and they also stole the hydrogen bomb, Edward Teller's invention of the H bomb, and they built a bigger, more deadly hydrogen bomb test than even the Americans had developed, which was called Tsar Bomba. Tsar Bomba demonstrated that we don't need to be doing this anymore. So I don't believe Trump was signaling Russia and China, because he does it at perihelion. He's trying to signal 3i Atlas. That's what all the symbols tell us. And now with the federal government shutdown at Yom Kippur, and we still have, when 3i Atlas aligned with Mars, K1 Atlas, Mercury, and the Sun in this perfect alignment that I've already demonstrated, you can see that that's when the government shutdown occurred. And then the nuclear testing is at perihelion. We have two coincidences to 3i Atlas. So because the images from the Mars high rise have not been released, somehow an image, a stunning image, I'm going to go over this right now because this is really big news. This is enormous news. I'm going to go to my Medium page where I've got this organized. Actually, I think I have my Medium page here. And this image is so disturbing. And I can't believe nobody's noticing what's in it. Okay, so hypergeometry appears above 3i Atlas and Lao image October 31 and a half. Okay, so this is the image. Okay, so they say October 31 and a half. And then we have 3i Atlas confirmed in the middle. And it's and then there's this other object above it that doesn't look like anything we've ever seen before. We're going to get really close on this thing. And the first thing people say is, oh, it must be a star. No. So what happens with these telescopes is that if you look at my hands here, this is the camera in northern Arizona. Because the magnitude brightness of 3i Atlas right now is around 14, which is extremely dim to a telescope. And this is the case for all astronomy. These lenses stay open for 30 to 40 minutes. So 3i Atlas is going at 130,000 miles an hour, which is faster than the orbits of the planets by almost a factor of 2. So that means as the telescope is tracking 3i Atlas, any objects in the background, namely stars, you see, they streak. This is an earlier image of 3i Atlas in the middle, and you've got streaking stars in the background over the duration of the exposure. And the stars streak because they're basically wandering. And the fixed object that the telescope is focused on is appears to be still over the 40-minute exposure, which means the object above it has to be near or at the same relative velocity as 3i Atlas. Otherwise, it would be streaked. And I can't believe nobody's noticed this. So I'm here to kind of enlighten people as to the impossibility of what this object is. And the very fact that they released this, I think they wanted us to see this. So this thing, if when we get really close on it, is shockingly beautiful. And this is what it looks like. In fact, if I really understand what's going on here, there are blacked out sectors in the pixel of the camera. And in fact, if I zoom back a little bit, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to here. I go back here, and you really look at what's there. Here, let me just kind of zoom in a little bit. Oh, my zoom button just took me way in here. I'm having problems with this, my mouse these days. Let me just scroll down a bit, actually. Okay, so we understand that now. We also know the object is not Venus, and that's because Venus is actually below. Let me just, I want to do this properly because this is the way I do things, is let's take a look at the sky live and go to Zoom, share screen, the sky live. Okay, first of all, the sky live says the estimated magnitude of 3i Atlas is 14.67. So the higher the number, the dimmer it is. As soon as you get near 20, it's really, really dim. But this is dim. Like you can't see this to the naked eye. And in fact, that's why you need longer and longer exposures and you have to track it. And when something's moving that fast, the telescope tracking it, everything in the background blurs. So that's our magnitude brightness. And so now stop screen and then get rid of that. And then we're going to go to, I'm going to go to the sky live. Here it is. I've got it all bookmarked and ready here. This is, so I want to really show people that no, you're not looking at Venus. In fact, if we were looking at Venus in the background over a 40-minute exposure, it would also streak. So here's the sky live. So here's Earth. The day the picture was taken was the 31st of August. And you can see if I zoom in here, Earth is here, Venus, and 3i Atlas is above it. So our object is up here. And if I turn this on its side, right, what we're looking at is we know 3i Atlas is here, so it could be literally so close in the depth of field to 3i Atlas. It has to be because 591 is here, and again, it's going to be here where my cursor is. So 3i Atlas is going to have a separation a little bit in my depth of field to the object that appeared. So it's probably not big enough to be 591, but it could be that 591 is smaller, about possibly the size of the planet Mercury, which is a very small planet. We don't know the size of planet 591, or it is the opening of a portal that leads to 591. But this is what interests me is this is exactly where I predicted that on the 19th to the 23rd of October, let's see, let me go back to those dates here. So let's go back to the 20th and 19th is where we cross. We're just at the outer edge of the orbit of 591. On the 23rd, we're right at the orbit of 591. And then the 31st, then 591 is going to be a little bit behind 3i Atlas. It's where our object appears. I mean, it can't be a planet that we know of. It can't be a star blurring in the background. What else could it be? I mean, I know this is hard for traditional astronomers to predict, but I last week I demonstrated the Vanishing and Appearing Stars project is proving that very bright, sizable. Well, I hate the word object because object implies that it's, a toy or something like that. I mean, you can't use the word object. You're looking at solar system bodies appear and vanish in as little as 15 minutes apart in photography on the Palomar Observatory. We did that last week. So yes, an object can hyperdimensionally appear as the planet Vulcan did in the 19th century, and as the Miracle of the Sun planet eclipse between the Earth and the Sun, October 13th, 1917, and May 13th, 1917. And so, yes, it's probably happening again right now. And our telescopes got it. I don't know what NASA as a word is going to be on this because they're not saying anything at all about our mystery object. And the combined research team of Richard Hoagland has been on this, and an individual, Greg Ahrens, who's an expert on stellarium, has confirmed it's definitely not Venus. Well, I can show you in the sky live here, it's not Venus because here's Earth. So the telescope would be doing this. And if I zoom in right here, I'm going to move Earth again. You see, Venus is below. 3i Atlas is in the middle of the frame. So what we're looking at is just behind it. And it's probably very, very close. So let's go back to what we're looking at because there's a lot more there that I want to show you. A lot more. So let's go back. I mean, to me, this is to have a physical manifestation of, I didn't necessarily believe, I couldn't say in my predictive model that we were going to be seeing real evidence of 591 in the physical dimension. But this is what happens when my friend Erica in Connecticut took it into her iPhone 17 and started playing with the shadows. This is what she got. And here's what my mouse is doing to me today. Here, let's move my mouse away. So, there we go. Yeah, that's right. I have to go back out. This is what her editing space looks like. This is a section of it. Look at this. You see this cylindrical metal thing here mounted. It looks like some kind of a Stargate. All she's doing is playing with shadows and definition on the object. And remember, all data in a photograph is data. I mean, this is posted on my Medium article. So for people who want to look at this, I mean, I know one thing, a camera cannot lie. A camera cannot lie. This is in the visible spectrum. And this looks like it looks like the tone of the metal tungsten. It looks like some type of space station or Stargate that we're looking at. Remember, this is, so now I want to go back to this. So when my object appeared, this is the 20th of October on the NASA LASCO C3 camera, which was not shut down. And my mystery object here appeared up here. And this is what it looks like blown up, which is really stunning. And that when we compare the trajectory of 3i Atlas on this amateur comparative image is this yellow line on the 20th of October here, our mystery object appeared up here, which is just behind its trajectory. Notice that on the between the 20th and the 21st, the red dot here, and where on the LASCO C3 telescope my object appears. And I proved that that object appeared and disappeared. And notice we have the same orientation, about 11 o'clock, 11:30 on a clock. 3i Atlas, 12 o'clock is here. This is about 11:30, 11 o'clock on the clock, is the same position as the LASCO camera, which when you get two cameras confirming the same thing, you're now ruling out chance. Of course, this was, but when 3i Atlas was approaching perihelion, and the new image is the 31st of October. So that means we have a direct correlation. So no, that cannot possibly be a star. In fact, if you look at it, it looks like a Venus flytrap to me with this object coming out of it. I'm going to take it into Photoshop. See, look at this. This is what it looks like. If you look at this shape here, it's like two leaves opening up, and leaves are Vesica Pisces, and this cubic structure here with this black hole in the center, and this black area here is where the pixels in the Lao camera, and this is one of the newest telescopes in America. This thing was like, I think it was built in 2005, so this is really new camera technology and optics for outer space. So it looks like two leaves opened up here, and you can see those same glinting, angular, right angle, glowing. I mean, is this the cubic city of God in the book of Revelation? The New Jerusalem? Peering through an opening in the fabric of space. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Which is, of course, this is what a Vesica Pisces looks like. But let me stop share here and take you into my Photoshop where you can really see this. Let's see, I got the spinning ball here. That was something that Apple invented. Okay, so let's go back to Erica's. There we go. Let's go. This is Photoshop, and you see how we've got these right angles. The pixels are way smaller than we're looking at here, but even a single pixel can have grayscale, meaning a gradient of tones. But we can see something cubic, but this part of the cube here, let me just blow this up a little more. See, if I blow it up more, you start seeing pixels. We see, again, it seems to be coming out of this black negative space here. Had this been a streak due to the time of the exposure, then we would see white streaks going left to right, because that's the direct 3i Atlas is moving this way, left to right on the screen. So if these luminous areas here were streaking, we would see streaks all the way through this negative black here. And we don't. And the same with this negative black here, we don't. And that really beckons us with the possibility we're looking at something that's in the phase of its hyperdimensional transition from the invisible to the visible. And I'm really intrigued by this circular black hole here in the structure. And again, these right angles. It's very, very reminiscent of descriptions of the new city of God. So remember, in this image here, we have something here that looks, you see these right angles in the structure here. I can go view fit on screen with that one. You see all these right angles here, and so this is negative space here. It just means the glint of light didn't reflect on what's in the dark area, because the areas that are lit, meaning they're protruding further out towards the camera, and the darker areas not capturing the light at the angle of the sun are not capturing the light. So it tells us this object is not a smooth surface. It has different depths to the geometry that we're seeing. So no, because the Lau Observatory got probably the same thing here above 3i Atlas, then we're highly, highly disturbed, right? And this is me taking my object, get on screen, from the 20th of October up here and darkening it so I can see a little more of contrast of what we're looking at. So now when we come out here, we come to my friend Erica's work in her iPhone, and then we come to, this is actually 3i Atlas in itself in the Lau image, which is center stage of that photograph. And we can see that you see these vertical structures here with my cursor right in the middle. These long vertical kind of like ribs. And way out here in the space around it, there's lots of structure that's not getting lit. And that tells me, once again, we know 3i Atlas has its own energetic light source. And that energetic light source brightened in the blue spectrum at and after perihelion when it was closest to the sun. So the core structure has been measured using data from the James Webb to be 28 miles across. And Avi Loeb's competing astronomers are trying to shrink that down to the size of the island of Manhattan, which is much smaller, way, way smaller than 28 miles across. And so you've got two sets of data, one saying it's, 2 to 3 miles across, and other sets of data saying it's 28 miles across. But these geometries way out here, because look, this is all black out here. So you've got low lit structuring way out here. So I'll play with my my brightness tool image. Why is it not giving me? It's not letting me do that. Anyway, let's see if we got more images here. So let's go and see. I mean, I'm just really, really stunned by all this because this data here that Erica got from this is just one section of this. And I don't know how her phone could be lying to us. It can't be. But that really looks like technology. It looks like some type of space station in a Star Wars movie. I mean, that's really what it looks like. So when we go to here again, go to my Medium page, we can understand what's happening down on the Earth. So Trump has ordered the continuing shutdown of huge sectors of the federal government. And what's happening now, which I think is interesting, is what's happening in our airspace. So I'm going to go to here, for example, the threats, and in fact, it was covered live on CNN yesterday, to the potential shutdown of our airspace. So potential shutdown of U.S. airspace next week. This is what CNN was. Here it is. This is 20-year-old news. Okay, 20-hour-old news. Okay, look at this. You think this is by accident? Of course, we think it is. U.S. could see closed airspace, mass chaos next week if shutdown doesn't end, Duffy warns. Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said. And of course, yesterday there was the UPS plane crashed and killed a number of people and caused a huge explosion on the runway. We've got massive flight delays, massive flight cancellations, and we already have chaos happening. And we were told the airspace could be closed next week. What's next week? So November 11th is only 6 days away. And two things are going to happen on November 11th. One, this massive sunspot is going to still be Earth facing in 6 days. And we know that a massive solar flare could disrupt communication systems if it's big enough. That's one thing. But we also know the timing of 3i Atlas on the 19th coincided with the big internet shutdown that occurred the same day. What would happen with all these flights in the air if a signal, either from 3i Atlas or 3i Atlas cooperating with the sun, for the sun to put out the biggest X flare in since the Carrington event in the 1800s? What would happen? Would pilots, and I have a lot of experience in the air. I've got, almost 300 skydives, like 270. I actually have 279 skydives, which is a magic number. And I've got high altitude skydives, and I've trained at Edward Air Force Base for high altitude skydiving. I've jumped from 30,000 feet in Davis, California, and so I got a lot of experience up there. And a lot of people don't understand that if you lose your communication systems, how affected would pilots be if they couldn't even communicate with each other and landing their planes without hitting each other on the runways? Well, we know the two cases last year in the Eastern Atlantic where we had a military helicopter collide with a passenger jet, and they both exploded, killing all the passengers. And then we've had the same thing happen with smaller planes. So when you lose your communication out there, the number of flights that are happening at any given time is so staggering in the United States and Canada alone, let alone the rest of the world, that if you lose communication, you're looking at a potential for a huge amount of loss of life. And that's just because the pilots can't guarantee the safety of coordinated landings on the runways. How would they do it? And what does their backup system look like? So is this really because of a federal government shutdown and the air traffic controllers not getting paid? Well, from what I know, the air traffic controllers are all at work. They're still at work, doing their job even though they're not getting paid. So why do we already have a plane crashing on the runway? Is that just another coincidence? Is it just another coincidence, or is it the beginning of failures of the telecommunication systems on the runway? I don't know. I just look at coincidences and algorithms. That's what I look at. So I find this story really interesting because yes, we just had a huge internet shutdown on the 19th. I know a lot of people don't even know that happened. I know lots of them. It was funny on Halloween. I was trick-or-treating with my youngest daughter, Astaria, and we go to the doors. And I dressed up as 3i Atlas. I had a silver coat on, a silver bowl on my head, and my blue glasses, and I'm holding a glowing crystal. I had a battery operated light, and I was telling people I'm 3i Atlas. Have you heard of 3i Atlas? They never heard of it. And this one guy, um, I was telling him that a Harvard scientist believes it's an alien mothership, and it's up there right now. And he looked at me like he wanted to punch me. And I'm like, you must not be, I don't know. I don't know what people are doing. Yes, the mainstream news has run this story. In fact, there's a great piece. I think I put it on my Facebook, and this is short and sweet. I'd really like everybody to see this. I mean, Yeah, nobody, people aren't watching the news all day long. Why is everything Trump doing signaling the timing of what Three Eye Atlas is doing? I mean, to call for nuclear testing, you cannot test nuclear weapons above ground. I mean, that's a statement at this point. It's not a reality. You can't do it. In fact, what we found, in the interim period is that we don't even have the trained personnel to actually build a successful uh, nuclear test above or below ground anymore. Yes, the nuclear weapons still work. I mean, they're useless because they destroy the planet, they destroy whole cities. Okay, here's the piece right here I want to show you on my share screen. So
Theoretical physicist says the answer is
this is Fox News. Remember, Fox News gets more views than CNN. Far more. Okay, so which is considered cable news. So look at this piece right here. Oh wait, I gotta stop share.
aliens headed for Earth
Okay, wait.
right now, today. A theoretical physicist.
Wait, could you hear the sound on that? Probably not. I,
Yeah,
oh, you could?
yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to share. Make sure I share sound. I just want you to see because this is short and sweet. I mean, so this is Fox News. So they're taking it seriously enough.
Are aliens headed for Earth right now, today? A theoretical physicist says the answer is maybe. He suggests a Manhattan-sized object known as Three Eye Atlas could actually be a mysterious alien spaceship. Are aliens headed for Earth right now?
Okay, so there you go.
A theoretical physicist says
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Now, I want to show you also in timing. I have the most stunning news about that will prove that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all point back to the Great Pyramid. And this news is coming. I'm going to release it just before Christmas here in the inner circle in great detail. This news is so stunning. It's so stunning that I will connect Solomon's Temple, Dome on the Rock, and the birthplace of Christ to Egypt with absolute perfection. And you're not going to believe what it is. Let me just share screen this because on November 1st, which is just 2 days after
I'm getting
perihelion.
goosebumps as you're speaking.
Oh, you're not going to believe what it is, Rose. I mean, I could tell you off camera, but then I'd have to kill you.
Thanks.
No, I mean, it's that shocking. In fact, what I've discovered is so shocking that I don't want it to be trivialized because the way our world works. I mean, look at this. The Grand Egyptian Museum opening. I just want you to see a little bit of a scene from this because I have a few more minutes here today. Trying to get share sound. There it is. Share sound. I was watching this yesterday. The Grand Egyptian Museum. Can you still see this?
Egyptian history from modern.
Are you able to see that and hear that? This is the
Yes.
Grand Egyptian Museum opening November 1st. And you have to understand, this is just a couple of days after perihelion. I mean, this was timed well in advance. This is such a beautiful presentation in the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum with Three Eye Atlas just past perihelion. I mean, it's really, really worth watching this. Incredible. It almost looks like AI because these are all beautiful Egyptian people dressed in costume and really worth watching this. I haven't got all the way through it. I love the costumes. I mean, they've got, I can just try and do some screen grabs through the whole thing. Great music. Everyone is so beautifully dressed, and all these dignitaries arriving, and perfectly timed, perfectly timed. And what I'm going to show, remember at Christmas, let's go to in timing with Egypt and the bringing together of all the great religions of the world coming back to Egypt. Remember, like I was saying today, all of it was Egypt at the time of Moses in the 14th century BC. The whole thing, the Palestine coming into Lower Syria and what today we know as Egypt, where Jesus was born at the perimeter of the Egyptian Empire, was all Egypt. And then Alexander the Great conquers it, 3rd, 4th century BC. And then the Romans conquer it. And during the time of Christ, it was a Roman occupied territory, but it really has the remnants of Egypt. And that cannot be understated. It can't be understated. And then when you have, I guess I'm going to have to go to my Medium article where I actually show this to show you. Where do I have that? I've got a lot of articles on Medium. I'm getting a lot of traffic, thousands of reads of my articles. Let's see if I have it here. Go to share screen because it's all going 3i Atlas. Its final episode for the inner solar system is going to be Christmas Day so we know its bullseye was hyperdimensional planet 591, and now we have evidence on 2 cameras that there's something there that shouldn't be there. And the image that showed up on the LASCO C3 camera appeared and disappeared and then reappeared in 2 more frames and then disappeared. So it's behaving hyperdimensionally. I'm just trying to find my image of what's going to happen on Christmas. Trying to find it. No, I didn't find it, so it was not there. It must be this article here. Because it's all going to come back to Egypt. And when I show you how Solomon's Temple, Dome on the Rock, the birthplace of Christ, when I show you, it's game over. There's something huge we're missing in the traditional biblical narrative that somehow Egypt was bad. So Moses was trained in all things Egyptian. The Archangel Gabriel tells the Mother Mary to bring Jesus to Egypt to raise him, where he's later trained just like Moses was. This is Avi Loeb's chart. So starting about December 1st, 3i Atlas, the blue line here, will pretty much flatline in holding its closest position to Earth. This is December 25th, the peak of the chart. And on Boxing Day, it releases itself from holding that closest position. So this is extremely powerful for Earth starting about the 1st of December. Now, this is the alignment to the Great Pyramid angle at Christmas Day. And when you see how all of the most sacred positions in Jerusalem, Solomon's Temple, Dome on the Rock, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is where Jesus' burial tomb is, and his birthplace, they're going to intersect perfectly with the Giza Plateau and the 3 pyramids, perfectly. And I'm gonna demonstrate how that works. So 3i Atlas is right on the money. So I would say what everybody needs to be doing in the inner circle firstly is now we're going back to Earth to 591 frequencies, and until it releases from that position, when we get to early December, we're just going to be doing Earth. It's all about Earth. We're going to be doing the frequencies of Earth for most likely the whole month of December. So that's kind of the forecast. So anyway, thank you for being here, everybody. the recording of this, the replay will be here. I'll send it out to everybody. And there are the newest frequencies that are coming is going to be my talks next week, which is really, for the first time in history, we're going to have the binaural frequencies for all of the 9 visible planets and all of the positions of the planets of the 9 levels of the angels. That's what's coming next in the inner circle. For inner circle members only, you get to work with those frequencies. But I'm going to give a talk about why binaural frequencies are really the most powerful. Okay, have a great week.